Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the absolutely spectacularly beautiful Ellenville High School. I want to welcome all the students, all our visitors. I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge some of the elected officials who are with us here today. The Mayor of Ellenville, Jeff Kaplan. Terry Houck, Supervisor of the Town of Awarsing. New Paltz Supervisor Neil Betez for coming over the mountain. New Paltz Mayor Tim Rogers. My friend Middletown Mayor Joe DiStefano. County Comptroller Elliot Auerbach. And Moms Against Gun Violence Mid-Hudson Valley co-founder Barbara Walsh and Rima Liscombe. Now, before we begin, I want to be able to say to each and every one of you how important today is. I want to say thank you to the governor for all this incredible vision that he has provided. And I'm going to tell you what we're going to talk about here today. We're going to hear from inspiring leaders from right here in Ellenville. Bella Ramirez. She's going to introduce this wonderful individual to my left, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. We're going to then have the president of NYSUT, the New York State United Teachers, Andy Pilata, speak and say a few words. And then to close the program, we are going to have our very own school superintendent, Lisa Wiles. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen across our nation tragedies. We have seen students killed, teachers killed. We have seen tragedies all over. And every step of the way, we have seen students step forward as heroes. We have seen the next generation say enough is enough. We truly are blessed to have a generation of incredible, incredible leadership. Now, as we saw these tragedies and we saw these young people step forward, we are also blessed to have leadership at the state level who is simply saying, again, enough is enough, and we're going to design strategies that can work, that can fundamentally make a difference. And so I'm proud that we're hosting this event here in Ulster County, here in Ellenville, and with incredible students. Welcoming our Lieutenant Governor and thanking each and every one of you. And so it gives me great pleasure to recognize and to welcome someone who is soon to be a superstar among you, an incredible leader, Bella Ramirez.
Good afternoon, everyone. As he mentioned before, my name is Bella Ramirez. I'm a junior at Ellenville High School, and I, along with my friends, organized our school's walkout on March 14th. Since the tragic school shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, students here in Ellenville, as well as across the nation, have begun rising up and speaking out against senseless gun violence. No student should have to go to school with the indescribable fear that they will never return home, or never have their first kiss, or never get to see their little sister hit her first home run, or never grow old with their soulmate. It is time that our political leaders took action in order to put an end to this fear. Sadly, thus far, Washington has done nothing of the kind. Fortunately, here in New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo is a national example in the fight against gun violence. Under the governor's leadership, New York has passed the New York SAFE Act, the strongest gun safety laws in the nation. And today, the governor, Lieutenant Governor, as well as many other courageous activists and leaders, are fighting for new action to make our schools and communities even safer. Thank you all for listening to the students. Please join me in welcoming New York Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, first of all, to all of you. I appreciate your patience. I'm not going to quite rely on GPS when they tell me how long it takes to come over the mountains anymore. But it took a little longer than we anticipated. But thank you for waiting for us and welcoming us to this spectacular community and this incredible school. I could not be prouder to be back here in Ulster County. Bella, you really, truly spoke from the heart. And the message that only you can capture, as you and so many of your colleagues all across this nation have done, is the message that the adults need to hear. That someone your age, a junior in high school, should be far more worried about the prom, your friends, getting through exams, and what the next year will bring. You should not worry about whether or not when you get on a school bus in the morning that you may not be on it when you go back home because of an active shooter penetrating what should be a place of serenity, an oasis. So Bella, thank you. And to the other advocates, the young people, the individuals involved with the march, the parents, the Moms Against Gun Violence, the school board members who travel with me and are here today, the administrators, teachers, and anybody who just cares about our children, which I like to think is everybody. Mike Heim, you are an incredible leader. We have been here many times together, particularly in areas of celebrating opportunities to improve outcomes for our children. The STRIVE program, the PTEC program, we have toured these firsthand and talked about ways that we can better the lives of our students. So thank you for your leadership. Where is Mike over here? Thank you for your leadership. To have Andy Collada, the president of NYSET, here today is a powerful statement that those of us in government are united as one voice with our teachers to change the laws in the state. So Andy, thank you for your leadership on many issues, but particular for helping join with us today here today and for all you do for our teachers. Lisa Wiles, our school superintendent, and Carl Pavon and others who are here today. We're also joined by Richard White, the governor's deputy secretary for public safety. Quite a road trip we had today, but thank you very much. The governor is not here today. He had hoped to be, but something else came to his attention. But before I start, I need to share with you something that I found incredibly chilling as I was driving up here today. You all know the song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, right? I'm not going to sing it for you. But listen to the words that are now put with that melody at a kindergarten in Massachusetts. Lockdown, lockdown, lock the door. Shut the lights off, say no more. Go behind the desk and hide. Wait till it's safe inside. Lockdown, lockdown, it's all done. Now it's time to have some fun. That's what kindergartners are learning to prepare them for the inevitability in their minds that a shooter will come into their school and perhaps assassinate them, murder them. This is what kids are learning today. This, to me, represents the loss of innocence in our country. It's chilling, it's painful as a parent to know that when I was 5 years old, or even my daughter was 5 years old, we were not having to teach our children lockdown songs to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. That is how far we've fallen as a nation. And that is why we gather here today, to say we will not tolerate this in our country any longer. And we are in a school setting, as I mentioned before, a time when we should be thinking about so many other happy thoughts. The end of a productive school year, anticipation of a summer, going on vacation. I'll also tell you up in our state capitol, 2 weeks from now, the elected officials are anticipating their summer vacation as well. But like you who have exams before you burst open those doors, before they break out of Albany and their responsibilities there, they have some unfinished business. There are items on the agenda that could help restore some sanity in our schools. And that's why I gathered you here. That is what we are going to continue working on. I'm going to explain the details. But as I mentioned, it's a very different time. We are 23 weeks into the school year, into this year. In that time, our nation has endured 23 school shootings. 23. Now, we talk about Parkland, those brave students who stepped forward and are still, every day, strategizing, never giving up the fight, and have inspired students from all over. We lost 17 there. We lost children at Santa Fe. When you think about the one child I saw interviewed on television, they said, were you surprised? Were you stunned? What were your thoughts when this happened? When someone came into your school, one of your fellow students, and slaughtered your classmates? She said, no, we weren't surprised. We actually expect it now. That's heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. And when you think about the fact that in this year alone, more children have died in school settings than anywhere in our military, people in harm's way defending our democracy abroad. Can you get your head around that figure? More kids have died in schools than the United States military serving abroad, fighting our enemies. And people say, well, why is it allowed? How does this happen in our country and not others? Well, we know what we're up against. We know there is a very strong culture of guns, and that is fine in many areas. This is not about the Second Amendment. This is not about legitimate right to own a gun. It's a rural area. I'm from a rural area. They call where I'm from out west, Western New York. In Congress, I represent the most conservative district in our state. I understand the culture. But this is not about those simple rights. This is more about the NRA portraying that any gun safety measure at all is a slippery slope toward confiscation of your gun. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a fat lie. We know that is not the truth. So it does become politically polarizing. These are not easy things to accomplish. Just ask our governor what he had to deal with after Sandy Hook 5 years ago when children, first graders, were slaughtered over in Connecticut. And we became the first state in the nation to put forward a comprehensive package of reforms which is still the model today and something that Congress could simply do and still allow for legitimate gun ownership. We're talking about banning assault weapons. We did it here in New York. Background checks. What's wrong with making sure that people who shouldn't have guns don't have them? The mental health database. And think about this. Today there are 77,000 names on the mental health database who've been identified by professionals as people who could do harm to themselves or to others if they possessed a gun. The day before the SAFE Act passed, those people could legitimately buy a gun in our state. We've made great progress. We've also limited the number of bullets in a magazine to 10 to mitigate the chance of a mass casualty shooting where someone comes in a classroom with an assault weapon and sprays it, where the loss of life can be immeasurable. We've closed the gun loophole, the gun sale loophole, and many other initiatives. And most recently, the governor was able to change the laws so someone who's been accused of domestic violence is not able to have a gun. When you think about and when you think about the fact that more than half of women killed in this country are killed by someone who is a past or present intimate partner, this is to protect those vulnerable individuals and their children. So we've done it. We've taken our hits. It takes courage to do what the governor did in this state. But now we are called to act again. Necessity requires leadership, political courage. But individuals alone in government cannot get the changes we're looking for. It takes the people. The people have to demand this. The people have to stand up and say, I'm with you, Governor, but for anybody who's not, I'm against you. And there are consequences to your actions. There are consequences this November in the elections if you do not support common sense gun safety measures, because that's all we're talking about. Today, Assembly Member Joanne Simon, who joined us on this bus tour yesterday, will be introducing and having a bill passed in our assembly called the Red Flag Bill, the Extreme Risk Protection Act. What is this all about? Think about the logic behind this one. Teachers spend more time during the course of a day than many parents do with the children. They see them interact with other kids. They see their stress points. They see their vulnerabilities. They get to know them like their own kids. Teachers see and know what's going on in these kids' lives. Why not empower these individuals to use their years of expertise, understanding of children, and to know when children are in harm's way, perhaps to themselves and to others. Let's empower the teachers, administrators, and parents who need it. Empower them to have the ability to get an order of protection from a judge to say, this child could be a danger to themselves or to others, and we need to make sure they do not have access to guns. Isn't that just what common sense is all about? But believe it or not, that's considered a heavy political lift in our state. Not in the Assembly. The Assembly will pass that. Not on the Democratic side of the Senate. Every Senate Democrat is on board with this common sense idea to say the teachers and administrators are in a position of power and authority and can make a difference here and perhaps prevent the next Columbine, the next Sandy Hook, the next Stoneman Marjorie Douglas, the next Santa Fe. That power is there, but you need individuals in the New York State Senate, even just one. If one Republican would come our way and say, I care more about saving lives in my district than I care about the influence of the NRA, we could get this done. We could get this done. And I say to particularly the young people here, the students, I know you're supposed to be working on your Regents exams, many of you. I'd give them a pass if it was up to me. I don't know. This is a lifetime. This is important. To the young people, this is the cause of your lifetime. When I was younger, it was Vietnam. It was civil rights. It was fighting apartheid. It was fighting for our environment. I've been involved in every cause my entire life. I grew up with very progressive parents. To the young people today, to your parents, to the teachers, to this community, this is the cause of our lifetime. To know that if we create the political pressure on just a few individuals to do the right thing, we have the power to save lives of children in our state. That is what we must do today. And so, this is our opportunity to be part of changing history, just like the people who fought for women's rights and disability rights and LGBTQ rights and all the other movements, civil rights, all the movements we talk about. This is what I'm calling student rights. The right of a student to go to school and come home at the end of the day. It's that simple. Let's bring our kids home from school safely. Let's talk about students' rights. Let's talk about saving lives. And we have the power to do it right here. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And as I mentioned, teachers, I am very proud to bring forward Andy Parlata, who has been championing the rights of our teachers, but also the rights of our students for his entire life. It is his leadership that we're counting on to help us find that one Republican. And in fact, I'm not going to lower my expectations. Why not bring them all on board? Let's create the pressure to make it unanimous that here in the state of New York, we value our lives. Andy Parlata.
I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Hochul and the governor for doing this. This is crucial for us as a state, as educators, as those who care so much about the future, about children, about teachers, about safety. It is important to get this message out. We support this bill because it empowers teachers, guidance counselors, principals, superintendents to do something. The last thing we ever want to do is throw up our hands and say, there's nothing we can do. That's the last thing. And Bella and your friends, be relentless. Be relentless. There are only 5 days left to the session in Albany. And there's a lot of confusion up there on what's right and what's wrong. Well, you make sure you call your state senator today. Get in touch with them. Tell them where you stand on this. I want to be able to come to school and be safe. I don't even want to think about this. I taught for 24 years in the Bronx, and I never thought that we'd be at a time when this would be our main concern. It is ridiculous that we're in this place, in this country, but we do know that in this state, we have leaders who are taking the lead, who are being bold, and will be relentless. We stand behind this bill, and we take the 680,000 members of NYSET and say, we remember, we vote, we stand behind making schools safe and making sure that each and every child, educator goes home when they come to school that day. It is crucial that we get this done. Make those calls, write those letters. They are listening because you know what happens in November? It's an election time. And that's what's resonating around this country is that politicians need to be held accountable. This is their responsibility. They can do something about this, and they can do something about this by next Wednesday, which is the last day of session. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for being here. It's great being with you as allies, and I'd like to introduce Lisa Wiles, your superintendent.
So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our beautiful school. In Ellenville, there is nothing more important than the safety of our schools and students and staff. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today to call on Albany to take action and protect our students and teachers. As we have heard today, the legislation is a smart, sensible step to keep schools like Ellenville High School safe. The vast majority of mass shooters and people who commit suicide show signs of their intentions. This law will empower families and teachers, who are often the first to see the signs, to step in and help. So I would like to thank Governor Cuomo, Lieutenant Governor Hochul for their support for this legislation and for everything they are doing for the children of Ellenville and the state of New York. I want to thank each and every one of you, especially our students, for being here today and speaking out on behalf of our children. Only with your support can we get this bill passed and protect our schools today and for generations to come. Thank you all for joining us today.